You can gather statistics, you can look at local market conditions, you can do so many things to learn about real estate numbers. You can trust the news, you can trust me, you can trust your next door neighbor, but ultimately there are some things that are a little bit interesting about the real estate market, the way it stands today in July 2023. Let me tell you about them, starting with the Shiller Price Index. So when you turn on the news and you're listening, I don't know if you listen, if you're like a podcast kind of news listener, if you're an evening news kind of listener, if you're a drive time listener, whatever, but I bet something popped up and you saw the word real estate in it and you kind of wondered, like, what is the Shiller Price Index? It's this really large nationwide study that comes out every month that tells us how many new homes are being built every month, what is going on in the major markets. And wait a minute, let me stop right there. What is going on in the major markets? So we have the Shiller Home Price Index that tells us all about the major markets throughout the country. We're talking about Miami, Chicago, New York, Tampa, what else we got? Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego. I mean, man, when Cleveland is standing in line with those cities, we've made it. We're in the 20 top metropolitan areas in the United States. I'm pretty proud of us. I hope you are too. So let's start with where Cleveland is. I got to turn to my computer to really read the numbers. So Cleveland actually has a 12-month house price change of down 1%. That's actually kind of interesting. I don't really know if 1% in housing is a huge trend, because we never really know, right? We're always looking at statistics behind us in arrears. We don't really have that crystal ball to look forward, as I probably say almost every month, but we have trended down 1% in pricing. Overall, we're talking about the big, bad metro area. We're not talking about your street, your house. We're talking about overall statistics. Let's talk Seattle. I mean, I don't know if you're into Microsoft, or you're into coffee, or you're into rain or whatever, but if you like Seattle, Seattle is down by 15%, making Cleveland's 1% seem very, very tiny. Do you remember a video that I did probably a year ago talking about the lack of inventory, and I played DJ, it was like a rewind, a reverb, a re, saying the same thing every single month? Well, guess what? Right now, those numbers have really come into play, because a year ago when I was saying there's no inventory, well, last month, sales were down 15% from this time a year ago. That's a huge number. That's a huge, huge number. So one might ask, well, then what's up with pricing? Because if there's less houses selling, does that mean pricing is skyrocketing? Well, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. What we're seeing in the pricing is that houses actually really have gone up. And we're talking about the smaller thing, not this Shiller big, number crunch thing, but actually are up at about 2% right here and now in the Cleveland area. That's both average asking price and average sold price. So we're seeing them both kind of, trend up still, even though that Shiller index had us indexing down. So I'm not really sure how those two numbers play into each other. I do know an economist we could call to ask. So in the world of Phone a Friend, let's do that soon to find out how those two numbers play into each other. And maybe he'd agree to do a little session with us to explain the statistics and how that works in a major national sense and yet in our hyper-local sense. So while we're talking hyper-local, we're going to get like hyper-local and say like this: 65 homes sold in Beachwood in the last 6 months. Top of the head math, if 65 homes sold, how many are selling a month? That's right, about 10 to 11, right? 10 to 11 homes are selling per month in Beachwood, Ohio. Great, right? Well, how many homes are on the market? 15, meaning that we have about 1 to 1.5 months of inventory here in Beachwood. That trend is actually a tiny bit up, a tiny bit, because we were saying about a year ago that there were only 6 houses on the market, which again informs the fact that the total number of sales is actually down, but the number of houses on market today is trending a tiny bit up. So pay attention, Beachwood sellers. If you want to get your house sold, the story of the market is there's a little bit more inventory. Let's get that pricing nailed so that you get your house sold in a perfect, timely manner. In University Heights, it's a different story. It's a bigger city and there's a lot more affordability of the actual housing stock that's there. So 137 homes sold in the last 6 months. That gives us a sale of about 23 homes selling a month in University Heights. And there are 20 homes on the market today. So there's slightly less than 1 month of inventory. When I pulled these numbers from where I sit here in Beachwood, Ohio, in the beginning of July 2023, I was actually surprised. University Heights has less inventory per month than Beachwood does. What does that tell us? It does tell us that the University Heights market is really strong and the Beachwood market might be lagging just a tiny, tiny bit. So I'll preach and I'll preach again. Nail your pricing. Nail it, nail it, nail it. There's a lot of myths floating around about real estate and real estate agents, and you can watch a video about that right here.